It's Monday, July 22nd, and we have Ty Walker of Smoke and Chimneys to talk about his trout farm. Scott's mom is mad at me, and the July hot list. Welcome to Eat It, Virginia.
The July. I like that.
July.
That's Farmville right there.
There it is. July.
July. Hello and welcome to Eat It Virginia, your number one podcast source for food news and interviews with the people who make Virginia restaurants great. Follow us on social media at Eat It Virginia and be sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast app. My name is Scott Wise and I am joined as always by my friend Robey Martin. Now, I put together a little rundown on topics we can discuss today, Robey. And
I'm telling you, this looks so profesh.
well, after 5 years, I figured it was time to get our act in gear. One of the points on the rundown is why my mom is mad at Robey, and I think I'm not going to start with that. I think I'm going to let you sit on that for a little bit and worry.
I am a little bit concerned about why your mother would be mad at me. I really like her.
I really like her too, but let's start with something else. How about the July hot list?
July.
One thing that I love about Robey is that she has the ability and the interest of going out to eat a lot. And because of that, she is on the cutting edge of restaurants, both in Richmond and in Virginia Beach and all over the state, that we should all check out when we have said opportunity. Thus, the hot list is born, the places where Robey would like us all to dine because they're doing cool things or they have innovations that we should check out, or there are brand new restaurants that she thinks are worth our time. The hot list is available on WTVR.com. It's going to be a monthly thing. And Robey, who's on the hot list for July?
Well, I kind of threw a little wrench in there because you know how much I like a tomato and mayonnaise everything. And so I'm essentially basically one big container of Duke's mayonnaise and tomatoes right now because of the amount I've been shoveling into my system. But I've yet to get to the Fat Rabbit. So most people are familiar, it's all over everybody's social media and everywhere else. It's Hot Tomato Summer, and that is a Duke's mayonnaise thing, which I feel like has just become an everybody thing. I mean, I think Duke's was the catalyst, and now everybody just jumps in, which I cannot tell you that I love it. I just love it so much. But Fat Rabbit has this hand pie that I cannot wait to get my hands on. And then I'm sure you'll be over to see our buddy Rabia at her
over at Ruby Scoops. Ruby is one of our favorites, and I think she just won like the RTD Best Ice Cream in Richmond, and she's got this amazing hot tomato summer dish that we should check out. So all the good things happening with her. What about some other restaurants? You mentioned 3 on the most recent hot list. One, Stock, which you can talk about in a second.
You can talk about it.
We did a social media. Oh, I'm not the expert. You're the expert. We did a social media video there. If you haven't seen it yet, it's our first effort on kind of a reel. I mean, we've done reels before, but this is kind of like our first effort in this kind of realm of telling stories, narrative reels on some of the restaurants in town. And I sent it to Robey, and she's like, "It's good. How did you think it turned out?" And I said, and this is all over text, so it's hard to really, figure out what people really mean when they say it's good. That's how I read it. It's good. But what I told her was, I think it was a good start, and we'll get a little better every time. That's all you can ask for, right?
Sure, but I need to make sure I preface this whole "it's good" thing. I take for granted your talent a lot because really, I mean, by and large, Scott, you do this because, well, I think it's because you like me, but really your talents are in producing news. Like that's what you do on a day-to-day basis. So the video is really very good for a first attempt, like way better than anybody else's would be because Scott is an Emmy award-winning producer.
Hey.
Get that.
I'll take it. So back to Stock. We went down to Stock in June to record because we knew the July hot list was coming out. We knew you wanted to feature Stock.
Mm-hmm.
So we went down there in June to record this video. I had some camera issues. We had some mic issues. That's just typical for me. I feel like I'm like a sweating ball of mess in like 100-degree heat, trying to like make sure everything runs smoothly.
And I'm just
all
chilling.
all of that aside, the food was really good down there, and really enjoyed meeting Kevin the chef and having him kind of explain to us, why he decided to cook in a kitchen that's attached to a furniture store.
It's very neat. I mean, the whole thing is really, really cool, and it really ties into who we have on the podcast today because Kevin Coleman, who is the executive chef over at Stock Richmond, is serving Ty Walker's fish from Smoke and Chimney. So it's really neat how that ties in. So you can listen to Ty and how all of this clean water and ecological stuff is happening in his 1930s trout farm or hatchery, as you will, and then go eat at one of the hot list restaurants, Stock Richmond. I would suggest get the trout and the smelt. I don't know how Scott feels about that, but that's what I would say.
I'm following your lead, Roby. I'm jumping off the cliff with you. The
I
other two
like
restaurants on the hot list both serve Mexican fare. Do
they
you
do.
mind? And people should read the article, obviously, on WTVR.com. Shameless plug. But do you mind just like a quick headline? Like, what's the difference between the two restaurants that you chose, the two Mexican food restaurants?
So both of them are they're like incredibly different actually. One of them is Taco Bomba, which is a James Beard nominated chef outside. He has a DC, Maryland, Virginia. It's kind of like a local chain. It's fast casual, mostly tacos. Pretty cool there. I would, and this is probably not something I'd say, I would get your queso from Torchy's and your and a lot of your tacos here if you really want to know the distinction between those. And then Cochi Loco is means crazy pig, and those guys are doing pretty I mean, at least in my opinion, and obviously I'm not Mexican but pretty authentic Mexican food. Jalisco, that area. They own E2 Mama and then two other hibachi restaurants, and that's in Scott's Addition. And that restaurant is like almost all tile, and it's really cool to see. And they have some really great local from where they're from options.
Awesome. Well, like I mentioned before, if you want to read Roby's writing on the hot list, it's on WTVR.com. We'd love to also hear who you think should be on the hot list, you being the listener, not you being Roby, who I'm looking right at. So please let us know on Eat It Virginia on social media, or you can email eatitvirginia@gmail.com. We have some news, some headlines to share. One of our James Beard nominated chefs, Brittany Anderson, ran into a little bit of restaurant drama with the city. She her
Sounds
pink
like there's a
with her pink
hiccup.
room.
Yeah.
Yeah, with her pink room. Do you have any insight there? Have you spoken to Brittany about it?
So I haven't talked to Brittany about it. I think that they're so I did reach out to a couple real estate guys just to see like how common this type of thing might be or what some of the hurdles other
Yeah,
individuals may go through if this is. And one of them said, I don't understand how this happened. Obviously, the landlord knows that that is what it is and that she's had this for some many years and probably should have been aware that this wasn't going to be a thing.
yeah.
And then the other one was like, "Oh, this could happen. Of course it could happen. Like
So yeah,
this is not a like this sounds like a legitimate situation and so I feel for her because it's going to take till September and that's really really tough. And so if the two real estate individuals in Richmond can't agree that it either is a problem or isn't a problem,
yeah,
I imagine that someone who runs a restaurant probably wouldn't know either. I will say that I'm hopeful that she gets back open in September because she has filed all the necessary stuff, and I'm sad for her employees. Though, with such a small restaurant, I mean, I think the pink room was, let's say, under 20 seats. I'm hoping she redeploys those employees to her other three places, and we see the pink room open in September.
yeah. Just to back up a moment, I agree with all that. Just to back up for a moment, the issue she ran into just a few months ago, I guess now, she opened the pink room, which was like a special space kind of attached to her restaurant Metzger. But like in name only was different, similar to other places that have popped up around town that kind of have like a side restaurant slash bar attached to the main restaurant slash bar. Um, And what she found out after a couple months was that the place where she opened the pink room was not zoned for commercial. It was zoned for residential. And thus the pink room wasn't allowed to be a business, even though they were using that space for the business.
Only
That's
private events, though. So let's just make sure we're specific on that. They were using it, but only for private events.
okay.
So they weren't using it in a um in the way that she's using it now.
Right. Okay. But bottom line is pink room is closed, Metzger's is open, and she's working with the city to hopefully get the pink room back open starting in the early fall. Some more restaurant changes. Our good friend Chef Bobo is no longer at Odyssey. Um, the restaurant that he opened with Lee Gregory.
It's the one right there at Three Chop in Patterson, seafood forward restaurant in the old Billy Pie. He is migrated. Tell everybody where he's migrated, Scott.
So Bo is now in the kitchen at Emerald and Slurp, where he is in the process of updating the menus there. I asked him for a little preview of what his menu is going to be, and he left me on red. So I guess he is not ready to share exactly what his vision is for those two spaces. But obviously, what I told him was wherever he goes, I will follow, enjoy his food wherever he is. So we
So
wish.
is there I have heard that he may move with that particular group of individuals to another space as well. I don't know if that's the case, but if you're thinking of Emerald, you're probably also thinking of the Jasper, and I'll leave it there.
All right. But I asked about well, Odyssey, the restaurant he used to be associated with, posted on its social media that it was closing for July and to stay tuned for updates with what happens with that space. So we will all watch. I guess we'll watch and see what happens.
I have talked to Lee with regards to that, and that I also will leave right there.
All right. Uh, what a newsy podcast we are. It's like,
I know.
I guess everyone will find out when it's time to find out. I suppose.
Yeah, it gets good. A little suspense doesn't hurt anybody.
Except when you're going to a restaurant and there's no prices on the menus. That kind of suspense someone on this podcast does not like very much.
You know what? I don't think I'm the only one. It makes me want to punch a bird, Scott. This whole situation makes me want to punch a bird.
If you guys
So,
if you guys don't follow Roby on social media, which you absolutely should, at Call Me Roby on Instagram, it's in like a nice mix of like, hey, eat here, or hey, here's me and Ryan on a boat, and then it's like, I effing hate this person, like out of nowhere.
not a
So
hated person. As
well, you know
nothing
what I
to do
mean.
with- No, 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 no.
But
No, it's not that. So a lot of times, Scott, I feel like I say out loud what lots of people think
And
over
that's
on
why, and that's why I
Instagram.
have a podcast with you. I swallow those things and you just blurt them out. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, sometimes it's not that great. But let's just say that I okay. So I feel like especially right now, people are maybe budgeting their money a little bit differently than they were a couple years ago, or even like during the pandemic, or however it is that it is, or maybe everybody has always been this way. I'm not sure. But obviously I don't know everybody's money situation. I do not like guessing what I am going to pay at a restaurant. I just don't. I don't think anybody should. It is either shady or lazy. There I'm going to say it just like that. If prices are not displayed, because I don't think that other than hospitals, I don't know any other place where you don't know the price before you pay for something.
So in theory, I agree with you.
Okay.
Sure. Like I think it's important to know what you're paying before you pay it. When I saw your posts about this, I thought to myself, I've never run into this situation before. So I don't know. Is this like a new thing? Is it certain restaurants that are doing this? Like, what is there a through line that you kind of can share that where you're running into this situation?
So I have been, I got, we we go a lot of places. I've started reviewing again over at Style, so I'm at a couple of different places, and 4 out of the 5 restaurants that I am looking at to review have not had beer prices on their menu.
This is all in Richmond.
All in Richmond.
And
Well, there's a couple in Virginia Beach too, but I haven't gotten into that yet. It just, I mean, there's even Scott. There's even a really nice fine dining restaurant in Richmond that doesn't have a menu for alcohol at all. You just have to
so
say to the person serving you, this literally, you have to say either I am willing to spend tons and tons of money so you don't feel like a complete jackass when you sit down, or you have to say my budget is only $25 for a bottle of wine and feel like a complete jackass when you sit down.
so in your recent experience, is it mostly alcohol, beer, and alcohol that this is happening, or is it menu wide?
So, in my experience, has been mostly alcohol.
Okay.
And I have asked, so just so you know, I reached out to a couple of people that are in the industry from a distribution or a like sales standpoint, and beer prices for the state of Virginia are set at the beginning of the year. So I don't really understand why that is not being put on your menu.
Do you think it's like a flex pricing situation where they can like add an extra dollar to a beer on a Friday and Saturday, and on Tuesday bring it back to, you know, the economics of it all?
Well, I don't understand how that isn't shady. I mean, like, why would you? I mean, like, you go on Thursday night and you pay $6 for a beer, and then you go on Saturday night and you pay $9 for the same beer.
Well, I
That's
mean,
pretty crappy without telling the public. I mean, if
ye
you got a beer on Thursday night that you really, really liked, just name an IPA or that you love from a place that you went and you're like, oh, I like this beer. I'll have that. You got charged $7 for it. You're like, huh, that's a pretty great price. I'm gonna go back and do the same thing on Saturday because I liked it. If you got there and it was $11, what would you do, Scott?
I mean, but a lot of businesses are charging different prices for different things at different times, and that's kind of the economy we live in. No, I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just saying it happens.
You think that a lot of places are charging one price on Thursday and a different price on Saturday.
I mean, movie theaters do it. You know, the tolls do it on
Oh,
Easy
well, do the
Pass.
movie theaters not post what they charge?
Yeah, I mean, people generally know that if you go to a matinee, it's cheaper than going to the nighttime. But I'm just saying it's not unheard of for prices to fluctuate for different
Sure,
days and
but you
different
know
times.
about them.
You
The
do, you
fluctuating
do.
prices, I don't really care about. I
Yeah,
think you should just know about them in the beginning. So, like, if
gotcha.
you got charged, if you looked at a menu and you said, okay, there's a Vossen, there's a Vale, there's a Miller Lite, and I don't even get me started on big packaged beers. I don't really think Budweiser's like, oh, today our beer is $7, tomorrow it's $3.50. Like, don't even get me started there. But like Vossen, Vale, any of those local ones, you go on a Thursday and you say, okay, you have to ask your server because who knows what the prices are. So ask your server, I'd like to have this particular beer. She says it's $7 because there's no price on the menu. Then you're like, great. That's actually great. I'm gonna bring some friends. We'll go on Saturday. We go on Saturday, still no prices on the menu. You get the same Vale beer, everybody else gets it too, and you get your check. And instead of 3 beers for $21, it's 3 beers for $33.
Have you been able to pinpoint why? I mean, you mentioned laziness or shadiness off the top, but have you been able to pinpoint exactly why?
Well, it the one of the places has sent me their menu with it changed with their beer prices
Okay,
on it.
so
Another place actually responded and said, "Oh gosh, I don't know why we do that." And they're going to reprint it. So no, I have no idea
all right.
as to why this is not a thing.
Don't worry, folks. The Eat It Virginia I team is on this, and we will report back on the next podcast
Oh, God, I
our
can just hear
findings.
people now being like, "Roby, don't you have anything better else to do?" I mean, like seriously,
Narrator,
can you?
she does not.
She does not.
This is it.
Here it is. She would like you to save $3 um on Saturday so you can buy another beer on Thursday.
We have one more thing to talk about before we get to our interview with Ty, which was lovely, by the way. I had never
I'm
met
waiting for
Ty
your mom to
before.
be mad at me.
That's what we're talking about. That's what this is.
Now we
This
have
is
to close this down is why your mom is mad at me.
yeah, yeah.
Goodness gracious. Yeah, I have a mom. I know how it feels. Oh gosh.
Yeah, yeah. So I love my. I'm going to preface all of this by saying I love my mother,
I like your mom.
but she is insane.
No, she's not.
She's
She's
insane.
great. Great.
We went out for dinner the other night, and she sits across the table from me, and she looks at me, and she goes, I love that video. I want to go get some of that schnitzel at Stock. This is talking about the social video we did. Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, it was good. We'll definitely go to get some schnitzel from Stock. Then she was like, why was it only Roby's name on it? I was like, excuse me? I read the article. It was only Roby's name on the article. I thought you guys were a team. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
are a team.
Yeah. So I said, well, let me explain the situation, Mom, before you go murder Roby.
Oh gosh, yeah, don't murder me. Don't murder me.
We do the podcast together. It says Scott and Robey on the podcast. We did the video together. We're both in there. We're both talking. But Robey wrote the article, which is why her name is on it. I didn't write the article. She did not accept that as a good answer. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. I might have to send her own copy that has my name on it.
This has your name?
Yeah, with like my picture and maybe I'll be the chef too.
Here. Tell your mom I'm happy to concede if she'd like your name next to mine on those. I'm perfectly comfortable with it.
I just want to make sure we talked about this before it happened. I don't want to hear from your mom about why.
Oh, you're gonna hear from my mom. There is no question that my mom's gonna reach out and be like, no, we will not be giving that away, Robey. But no. I'm you know what? If your mom would like her name on it, I'm good with that too.
And if you, dear listener, would like your name on it, just send us an email at eatitvirginia@gmail.com. Are you ready to talk about some fish, Robey?
You know what? I am. I think it's very cool, and I'm ready to go and have a trout hat on September the 15th. So I've got like so many questions for you. I've been thinking about this whole thing this morning and yesterday, and I'm going to ask some probably what you think are really stupid questions.
That's my job, Robey. That's my job.
I just don't. I just would like to know more, and I feel like I have like this peripheral view. All right, first. Welcome to Eat It, Virginia. We have Ty Walker, right, of Smoke in Chimneys. What does I got to get, it's a trout farm, but what first does the name mean?
Yeah, so Smoke in Chimneys is, I guess we started farming like almost 10 years ago. We did like this farm internship in Oregon, and then we moved back to our grandparents' farm in Franklin County. And on that farm is two stone chimneys that were built like in the 1800s, right? That were still there. The farm hadn't been used in some years. So we're in this process of like getting the farm like revitalized, and we were doing pastured pork and raw milk, and we were doing like grass-fed like Wagyu beef, and just trying to get the farm back producing again, and then but these chimneys are there kind of like from a homestead literally like 200 years ago, so it was kind of like we're trying to put fire like back in the old chimneys, like do kind of return to like the old ways, you know what I'm saying? So, and then plus two, I just wanted to have a name that, because I didn't really know what we wanted to do or be, and I just didn't want to get Triangle Farm, or I don't know. I just didn't want to get pigeonholed with like this name that I would be stuck with. I wanted to pick something that maybe was confusing or hard to pronounce or whatever, just so I had the leeway to kind of make my own path. Does that make sense?
It totally does. Yeah. Build something out of a name that means something to you, but maybe doesn't fence you in.
Yeah. I didn't want to be fenced in, Robey.
There it is. I like it.
He seems like a man who can't be fenced in.
He's not right now. He's selling farm. Well, I don't know. Let's get into this. So by and large, Smoke and Chimneys is a trout farm.
So 100%. So we left my grandparents' farm, right? We were there for maybe 5 years, and we were living in a single wide trailer. We'd had our second kid, and this opportunity came up with this trout hatchery, and it was a really, really hard decision. But there was like like an actual house on the property, you know what I'm saying? So it was like, and it was like, wow, like it was kind of just like a sink or swim thing. Like this niche farm raised trout thing could do great, or it may be the stupidest idea in the whole world. But we just felt like, you know, we should try it. So yes, we are a revitalized 1930s trout hatchery where we raise trout for table fare.
Okay. So how does one in my let's do this from like a layman's term because I have been to lots of hatcheries, so I'm familiar what that is. But in my head, I see a big commercial aquarium with lots of baby trout.
Well, this place, that's kind of
Wrong.
right. Well, yeah, I mean, this place was built in the 1930s. So when you think of an aquarium, you think inside chlorinated water, fluorescent lights. This is like it's like stone and earthen ponds and outside. And I mean, there's not even like electricity at the hatchery, like other than the house. You know what I'm saying? So it's because it was built in the 1930s. They didn't have a lot of infrastructure, ability to build things. So it's like a gravity fed system from a 3,000 gallon a minute spring is feeding the hatchery building and then all of our raceways and ponds with this like amazing, you know, freezing cold water 24/7. So it is a fish farm, but it's like not what you think of like the first thing that pops in your mind, if that makes sense.
No, that's exactly what I want to learn about is I don't I just watching all the things that you have going on. I've not
Mhm.
actually been. It looks far different than the tubs of water that you
Yeah.
see in other hatcheries, right?
So I'm inviting y'all now, September 15th. Come. It's on tickets on me. September 15th is our big fall event. It's our hatchery tour and taste anyway. But yeah, no, you're right. And it has been an uphill battle, 100%, because it's like, oh, like I don't eat farm raised fish, like I only eat wild caught. And like I get that, like fish farms have been, back in the day, fish farms took a lot of money from like big ag. So they kind of adopted all the mindsets and farming practices of sort of large scale monocrop feedlot type agriculture. And that's why fish farms have a terrible reputation, and rightfully so. But it's like that, not all farms are created equal. Like look at beef. You've got feedlots on the one side, then you got regenerative grass-based systems on the other side. Well, aquaculture is like the same way. You can have the indoor chlorinated water, fish, or you can have a system like ours that is like mimicking, natural systems.
Hi, what
There.
what happens in a child's life that leads them to want to start a trout farm? What was little Ty like?
I mean, my dad was like an entrepreneur and worked for himself like pretty much his whole life. So, and I worked for him for a while, but I was a horrible employee, to be totally honest. Like I remember,
What did he do? Well,
well,
what were
he
you
was
doing?
I was he was in real estate, which is more lucrative than fish farming, but the principles are the same. You know what I'm saying? As far as working hard, calling people, having a good attitude, all that stuff. But yeah, I remember one day we got in this huge argument, and I was like, Dad, like, I don't know if you get this, but like, you didn't raise me to be an employee, like that, none of my training, you know what I'm saying? So I took a lot of what I learned from my dad, and I guess and to be totally brutally honest, like, you know, this is our 5th year. I mean, most up until now, it's been like just trying to survive. So it's like we got to be in every restaurant. We got to be processing fish. We've got to, um, it's, I mean, and it still is literally like my only income. Like if I go buy a coffee and it's $7, that's $7 of a fish that I raised and sold to buy the coffee. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that. I mean, I think a lot of us are in this maybe not such a dire situation, but most people are living kind of day to day, paycheck to paycheck,
Yeah, for sure. For
trying to figure
sure.
out what's next. But were you like I don't want to generalize because
Generalize.
I'm just meeting you
I
right now
love
for the first time.
generalizations. I
Like,
love them. Go ahead.
were you an outdoorsy person? Or are you
Yeah, for
a
sure.
fisherman, a hunter? Are you like what's your background?
Yeah. I grew up there on my grandparents' farm. So, riding dirt bikes, paintball, um, birthday parties were like load everybody like on a trailer and just drive around the farm and see who could push the other kids off the trailer kind of thing. So,
So
yeah.
safe, very safe. The
So
birthday
it
party,
was
super
so
safe.
safe. Yeah. Like it was, yeah. My poor mother. But yeah.
All right, cool. I want to make a quick confession to you about my background in terms of
Okay.
fishing. In
All
terms of
right.
fishing, the last time I attempted to go fishing was, I think, in 2016, and
Okay.
I was sitting in the hallway of my house with my son, showing him the fishing pole, and I put the hook through my thumb and ended
Oh,
up in the
dude.
emergency room.
Dude,
And
that's gnarly.
that was the last time I went fishing. Before that, I like the middle part of fishing, like the actual casting and sitting. The
Yeah.
the putting the
Yeah.
bait on the hook and they're
Yeah. Yeah.
removing
Yeah.
the fish from the hook.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
That's not me. That's not
I
me.
hear I hear you.
So
The
That's
that's
last
where
time I
crazy.
went fishing was yesterday.
and
Really?
that's why we're a good team, Roby. We
Yeah, I know.
the
Well,
yin and the
Scott,
yang.
hey, if you come to the hatchery, you can just do the middle part and then I'll get your hook baited and then I'll take the fish and you can be in your sphere of genius, which is the middle part.
I, li-
Spear
I
of
like someone who
genius.
likes the middle part. I don't really, the middle part's too much waiting, I think. I mean, I do it because it's serene,
Yeah,
but I like
yeah.
someone who likes the middle part.
All right. Now that we're on the same plane, Roby, please continue.
No, your fishing skills, Scott, have never been something that we've looked to you for. So it's good to know that we don't have to now. We have Ty. Okay, so I have to like I still am struggling to wrap my head
Okay,
around the.
sorry, Roby.
I'm so slow. Um, Spring into these like earthen ponds, and then how does that work? Like, do
So
you like stock the actual trout? Do they spawn on their own? Like, what is is trout spawn even like the right way to put that? Like,
so yeah, this is our 5th year. The first 2 years we're just trying to figure out like what in the heck we were doing. How do we even like it took us weeks to figure out how to get the water on. You know what I'm saying? It's like cast iron valves. It's like, well, if we're going to raise fish, we probably need to get the water on. Um, Basic stuff, right? So, and then I was working other jobs and stuff during this whole time to get the whole thing up and going. Anyway, so we did some stocking here and there, and it took us about a year just to get all the certifications to be able to process the trout. That was a
okay.
major deal. The state at first was like, hey, you need to take your fish to a fish processor at, Reedville or, Newport News or whatever. And I'm like, well, I'm 5 hours from there. That's not going to work. And it was like, well, take the fish to a processor near you that is USDA. Well, they only do beef and chicken and pork. So that was a whole process. So in that time, we were doing some stocking. We were just, I don't know, just trying to figure it all out, really. But so we were buying like fingerlings, where now we breed some of our fish, our brook trout, some of our rainbows, and then we also buy some eggs from a hatchery in Washington State. So we get the eggs in, we incubate the eggs, they hatch out into little fry. And then it's basically a 14-month process to get the trout to a size that, you would eat like stock in Roanoke. They're doing whole fish. Those fish are about 14 months old. The big fish that I seen Kevin in Richmond, those fish are over 2 years old because he's getting like 2.5 pound fish. So it's basically a year to 2 year process to get the fish to a market size, and that's hatching the fish, keeping the predators out of the fish, feeding the fish, all the stuff. Does that kind of
It does.
help?
Yeah. It helps it. Well, the process, I think that not a lot of people understand is
I'm
that
still trying to understand. Yeah.
well, I mean, it's so like in order for you to bring us something that is either good for us, good for the environment, the size that we can eat, the regulations that you have to go through, all of those things, it takes you, well, I mean, 4 years essentially, you know, really when you think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's one fish, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously
And
that's
then
more.
people are like, "Oh my God, $18 a pound. You got to be
Exactly.
kidding me." I'm like, "You got to be kidding me." You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not even
Anyway,
hours wages for
yeah,
most
dude. That's
people.
just
So
like, yeah, I mean, the fish, and it's funny, the hard cost, literally, they cost me about $15 a pound to raise, like real money, which is in that's insanely expensive, but I think we have the best freshwater fish like around, and yeah, it's super labor intensive, and we got to keep our stocking densities very low. That's how you get such a beautiful looking fish is you're not crowding it, and you're not stressing it out. And yeah.
so how many live fish do you have stocked out?
Mm,
I mean, I'm sure you have to estimate.
yeah. Yeah. So it kind of ebbs and flows. Summer is kind of when we draw our production down just because, it's summer, it's hot. Like the spring will drop some. So we kind of got to compensate for that. But I think like harvestable fish, I probably have maybe 10, 15,000 fish right now. But then you always have fish coming behind. So I'd say close to 30 or 40,000.
What did you start with?
Dude, so I was trying to get some eggs to hatch, just see if I could hatch them right. And I call the hatchery and I'm like, hey, like, first conversation, they already know, like, dude, who's this clown? I'm like, I'm starting this hatchery. I need some eggs. Can I get like 100 eggs? And there's sort of like this pause, and they're like, minimum orders 25,000. I'm like, okay, well, and it's like 3 grand, so I'm like, I'm out, dude, like, can't do this. So I actually drove a couple hours to my friend Rick in Withville, who has a hatchery, and got some eggs from him. And I don't remember where I was going with this story, but yeah, like the barriers to entry are like huge. Like we're talking, because most of fish farming is like commodity scale. You got to buy 25,000 eggs, like a pallet of, you can't just buy a bag of fish. That was a whole other thing is getting fish food. Like you can't buy a bag or five. You've got to buy a pallet of bags, which like that's $3,000. Like everything is $3,000. You know what I'm saying? So it was just, yeah, I mean, and even still, like once a month, you're like, dude, I should probably just go get a job. This is insane, you know? But
What does it
yeah,
take? What does it take to raise a fish? I mean, you talked about the hatching, you talked about the keeping the
yeah,
predators away. Like, what are some
yeah.
of the things that you do on the daily, or your coworkers do?
So the daily is golly. So you're trying where to even begin here? So a
What
lot of
time
it
do you
is
get
like
up?
Uh, I don't know. Sometimes five, sometimes six, just whatever. Monday and Tuesday are like, I mean, it's D-Day. I mean, it's Monday's insane because that's like all of our processing for the week. So we're trying to process the fish, chill the fish, and then get them out. Dude, the past couple weeks with the heat, dude, shipping the fish, it's been I like don't even want to look at my phone, because it's like the fit, because we ship everything UP. If we don't hand deliver, it goes out like UPS next day, but it's so freaking hot, like in a UPS truck, and cold fish need to stay cold, and yeah, it's been summer's most stressful for sure, because once you get into cooler, like, because if we can't get the fish out, like we can't invoice for fish that didn't show up right. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like stressful on the whole like kind of business. I don't know where I was going with that
So,
either,
well,
but
there's
the
the big,
daily, yeah. So the daily thing is like wake up, you're going to check all the ponds, you're going to clean the intake, which the intake is like imagine all the water coming to one place, going through a screen, and then once it goes into this big pipe, then it feeds all of our different raceways and ponds. If that gets clogged up, it's like a game over situation, so you check the intake, you check all the ponds, you feed the fish. The earthen ponds, you want to clean the screens at the back because they'll get like, algae or pond grass on them. You want to keep the water low. Um, just kind of like general, just kind of, I guess what am I, preventative maintenance. Does that
yeah.
make sense? Like you want to be ahead of everything. Like if you have a pond that's getting stressed, well, you need to like move some of those fish like right now. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to get ahead of like maybe potential issues instead of like trying to fix stuff on the back end.
So
Does
how
that
many
make sense?
ponds are there, and then how many fish would you like to
Perfect. I
see
should answer that. So
see
it's
in
like
the ponds?
there's 7 ponds.
Okay.
There's 5 concrete raceways. So in terms of trout hatcheries, our facility is like pretty small, I'd say. Um, so right now we have 2 ponds in production. So starting in November, all 7 ponds will be in production. But because the summer is, yeah, like I said, low water, it's a little more stressful on the fish. It's a lot easier just to like kind of concentrate our numbers in 2 ponds. So each pond is going to get like about 1,500 gallons a minute of water, which is like, 2 6-inch pipes just gushing. It's a
And
lot
how
of
many
water.
fish per pond? I'm sorry.
So like right now in one pond, I have the fish split up by size. So one pond is going to be the like 12 ounce to 1 pound fish for like the whole plated fish and like the retail stuff you see like in the sleeve. And then I have another pond I have it split with like a net in the middle. So the top half is brook trout, and then the back half is all like 2.5, 3 pound fish, which is like what Kevin gets in there in Richmond.
And do you name them all, or how's that work?
The fish?
Yeah.
No.
No. Okay.
I do have a couple that I keep around. Like I have one golden trout that got like mixed in with a group. So my kids named him Goldie. So Goldie's around, and then I have a couple big brown trout that are like my pets. So I mean, I'm on a mountain with no cell service or internet, so you kind of gotta just,
Name the
yeah,
trout.
start naming the trout. Yeah,
That's not a euphemism for anything. We
yeah,
are literally
yeah,
naming trout.
yeah.
So I first heard about you from Bo, who it was previously Odyssey in
Is he
Richmond.
not at Odyssey anymore?
That you never know with that Bo.
Yeah, sure,
He's
sure.
he's around, starting trends. Now,
Yeah,
obviously, you're not a trend. You're doing some great things for our
hope
environment,
not.
but that's the first place that I came across your particular fish, and then
Hmm.
went to Roanoke and had it with Jeff Farmer. They
Right.
obviously both were serving it very similarly as a whole fish.
Hmm.
Is it, I would imagine, but correct me, that your business is very much word of mouth. Is that the case with respect to where your fish goes?
I would say now it is more, maybe more so, but not. That's been kind of a recent thing. I mean, we have done like so much cold calling, showing up at restaurants with fish in a cooler, trying to talk to the chef. So, mind you, you're talking a very expensive farm raised trout. Like, there's a lot of, does that make sense? Like, there's
Sure.
just, it's not for everybody. And it's, the product really resonates with like chefs that get it and are already using like Tucker at Broadcloth in Charlottesville. You know, like he was stoked on it, which
Tucker Yoder loves stuff like that. So I
yeah,
can
yeah,
see how
yeah.
that would
And
be his.
he's dude, he's a G with the trout. Like he was doing like trout collars, and the way they use the whole fish is insane. So places like that really, that's like a good fit for the trout. Does that make sense? Because,
Sure.
and you know, they've got to be able to charge enough to like, you know, at least make a little bit on the fish. So it kind of puts your window of opportunity with establishments, you know, it's kind of only a certain type of restaurant that can really work with the product, you know, for better or worse. But yeah.
So let's say that I am unable or can't get to, or however that works, like right
Mhm.
to like someone like Blue
Mhm.
Hillstone Barnes or Jeremiah
Mhm.
Leghorn or even Tucker Yoder. What can I do as an individual who listens to this and maybe lives in Keysville? Hi, that person in Keysville. How can I get fish from you? And then how can Roby get that trout hat? That's my next
I'll
question.
send you a hat. Yeah, dude. The embroidery person by the end was like, dude, I hate this project. I'm like, why? Because they sent me like a sample and it was all like one color, and it's like, dude, like it looks like a tilapia. Like they're like, dude, it's too many colors. And I'm like, well, dude, it's
The
a
rainbow
child's
trout.
color, bro. Yeah, yeah. Like we gotta have colors. And yeah, dude. Anyway, thank
Freaking
God for,
tilapia.
I know, dude. I was like, dude,
No,
we're already,
I want the full trout version.
yeah.
I will sport that so hard at I mean
I didn't get, I don't think I had any at the Virginia Food and Bev show. I'll
I was
mail you
too busy
guys one.
eating all that smoked trout you had. I don't even know if I
Yeah,
registered the hat.
yeah. Yeah, geez. What'd you ask?
Half
So
like that
how do you
lay
get
percent,
trout?
yeah.
So Christmas, we started a sort of our retail program, which is like we mail trout boxes out every week. You can get a couple of the fresh trout, a couple smoked trout, a couple of our smoked trout cakes. You get a hat. You know, it's kind of like the Smoke and Chimneys, you know, starter pack. You know what I'm saying? So we've been mailing those every week. Yeah, that's relatively new. So yeah, that's for someone that, you know, like likes our stuff. You know, they thaw some, eat it, keep some stuff in the freezer. So because that was tough, because when our garden and gun thing came out, the lady Stephanie was like, what's like, how can people buy your fish? And it's like, dude, there's no way for them to, like, they've got to go to a restaurant, you know, which is, it was kind of like we got to figure this thing out, you know. And it was it's, you know, we've got it pretty dialed at this point as far as sending out the retail boxes. So yeah, you can order a trout box on our website.
And is it just called a trout box? Like if
Yeah,
I was sending a Christmas present, I could send Scott a trout
dude.
box?
Yeah, for sure. So
Hat
like
included.
one of them is like a tasting box. Well, we got to figure something out, because every time you get a box, like you get a hat. And like this one dude emailed last week, he's like, dude, I've ordered like 3 boxes, and like I don't need any more hats. But like, so anyway, we're making it all up as we go. You know what I'm saying?
Sounds like the
But
podcast.
yeah,
It's,
yeah,
it's very
yeah,
much what we do. Yeah.
So
yeah, for
so your
sure.
business, it sounds like you mentioned you have children. You mentioned you have this business that is day to day. Sounds like you
Yeah.
have to have a lot of faith in what you're doing. Um, I saw on your website that you have a lot of faith in other areas too. Do you mind sharing like the role religion plays in your day to day?
Yeah, for sure. Um, I guess, we started the whole thing with literally like, at that first year, there was a point I literally had like $6 in my bank account. I'm like working at Earth Fair, driving back and forth to Christiansburg, and I'm just like, God, like I'm here. Like I felt like we were supposed to be doing this. Like, and I just remember kind of hearing that verse, it's like we like walk by like faith and like not by sight. So it's like, even though I don't see the results, even though I don't see all the pieces like coming together, like maybe something's happening by me just continuing to keep going, that it'll kind of work out. You know what I'm saying? So, because mind you, everybody was like, Ty, this is so stupid. Like, why are you like, you know, why don't you just stay in real estate and keep helping your family? Like, there was like a very like stable kind of like path or whatever. And I just was like, dude, I just don't feel like that's like my path. So it didn't take long to like, use the like little bit of savings I had, and then it was just, so I guess I can't take a ton of, I mean, we've worked like heathens for 5 years, but I just feel like, you know, I don't know, man. Just like God has just showed up in so many ways, like when we needed stuff to happen, like running out of fish food and needing the $3,000 to get fish. Like there's been so many of those that, and even still, like I get discouraged on certain aspects or projects with what we're doing. And I just think like, wow, man, like, look kind of how far we've come.
But you have a cabin on your property where people can, it's like a prayer retreat
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
situation.
So we have like a prayer room on the property, which is like really cool. Um, and it's sort of the background with that. So I used to be on staff at like a house of prayer, and when I lived in Pasadena, California, and I just at that time I had a lot of like mental health issues, depression stuff. Like I was just like jacked up. So I was just kind of like that practice of like just prayer, and for me it was just like reading the Bible and just trying to find out like who I was. It really just like centered me, and honestly sort of like, I don't know, like you could say like saved my life or whatever. So for me it's not really about like a church thing or doing the right thing. For me it's just like, dude, this is like how I'm able to like run a business, you know, have time for my kids, be a nice husband. You know what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't be able to do that just in my own just like strength. Like I need like every day I need like divine intervention, to like help me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think we could all use a little divine intervention
Yeah.
every
So,
now and
but
again.
yeah, so the prayer room is really cool. I had a friend who just came up a couple weeks ago and did like a full, like kind of 5 day sort of like personal, like retreat thing. So, um, yeah, it's really cool. It's decorated very nicely. Shannon, tanned one of our, cow hides like a couple years ago, and that's one of the rugs. And yeah, it's just a place for people. Some people just come up for the day, just read, hang out, like, pray, meditate, whatever. So I think for us, we just kind of wanted to extend, I don't know, that's like what we're about. So I don't know, just kind of making that available for people that may be into that.
I imagine being around all that nature also assists with the like lowering of the shoulders from the earlobes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And plus, man, I mean, dude, like, I mean, just with any farm, I mean, I was just talking, I had lunch the other day. I got to go by and see Clay, at Autumn Olive. and he's like a mentor of mine, and we're just talking about the weather and this and that. Like, dude, farming, like, it just keeps you humble, dude, because as soon as you think you got it figured out, like,
You don't.
you don't. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it kind of like feeds into the whole, like, trusting God thing. Cause you got 70,000 fish, and I'm banking on a spring. Like, somebody came with, like, what if it goes dry? And I remember getting so offended. It was at one of the tours. I'm like, go dry. Like, who the heck are you? Like, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, yeah, it could. So it's like you've got, you know, $150,000 worth of trout in a pond that you're banking on the water doesn't go dry. I mean, that's insane. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, dude, that's the business we're in, and that's what we're doing. And it's really cool because the property across the street from us, I found the guy's will. And this place was built in 1803. And in the will, he's giving away all of his stills, his still tubs, his moonshine equipment. So pre-Civil War, he was making whiskey there at the spring. So it was running 200 years ago. So
Is
Don't
that
screw it up,
next?
Ty.
yeah, so we've done 2 beers, right? We did a beer with Table Brewing and then a beer with Big Lick. I really want to do like a bourbon or something with somebody. I don't know. I haven't figured that all that out yet, but dude, I would love to do that. That'd be so fun.
I, I think especially with all the history, I think that would just
Yeah.
be so neat out there.
Yeah,
I
it'd
don't,
be so cool.
I know the guys from Belle Isle. Maybe we can connect you.
Yeah, for
I,
sure.
I think that they right now obviously they do a lot of moonshine, but that would be like right up that alley to you.
Well, the show Moonshiners came up and they actually did an episode. They did like a peach brandy with the water, but I mean, it's like a whole bootleg thing. I want something like in an actual, like that can like have on the shelf, like that would be cool.
You have to. I imagine you probably have some fox grapes or stuff growing around there that you
Yeah,
do some moon. I, I, I mean, I have some fox grape moonshine in my fridge right now.
nice. Yeah,
I'm happy to bring you a
yeah,
starter.
that'd be awesome. Yeah, we did.
That's the FBI knocking on your door, Roby.
Yeah,
It's just fox grapes. I mean, the nature does the rest, really, Scott.
it really does. Yeah.
I put a hook through my thumb. Remember, I don't know much about nature. That's the extent of my outdoors.
Dude, that's hilarious.
Thank you.
I find it awfully funny too. I remember when it happened. It's Scott, man. So what's next other than perhaps some moonshine? Where are we going next? Another fish?
No, hold up. Let me grab some. Yes. So dude, I don't have any here. I took them all. So our sparkling water comes out on Monday.
Nice.
Actually, it's called Wild Water. The label is so cool. So basically, we took water from the spring, ran it through a filter, a gauze filter, UV filter, and took it to Three Roads Brewing in Lynchburg. They're running it through all their equipment, and yeah, dude, it's like in a can, water from the spring. I mean,
love it.
If you don't like drinking water that's shooting out of rocks, like, I don't know,
It's the only water I drink is one that shoots out of rocks.
Words to live by right there.
Yeah. So we did a trial run with the water at Veritas, and it did really well. So it's like one of these things. I'm gonna get 225 cases of this rock water. Like, people are like, what are you gonna do with it now? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just trying to get it in the can first, So, but I mean, we don't have a well there at the house. So we've been drinking this water for 5 years. And it's awesome because on all of our testing, I mean, it's coming out of the ground at a pH of 8, which is so cool. It's like naturally alkaline from like the limestone aquifer. And, it's really high in like calcium and all these minerals. So, if you can't drink that, I don't know what you can drink, but yeah, so that's coming out. That's literally been an 18-month process. So just all the figuring it out, and um, so that's on Monday. We do our full run, which we're excited about, and then I don't have it here either. Our 10 fish comes out in like 2 weeks.
Oh, so cool.
So we started that about a year ago. That was a total fiasco trying to figure that out. So yeah, because I'm stoked because it'll give us a shelf stable product. I mean, like, because everything now it's got to be refrigerated or frozen. Where like Smoking Chimneys, like fish like in a tin, like I'm pretty stoked on that. But that took a lot of, so like that, for example, could not find anybody. Like there used to be like 15 canneries just in Baltimore, like in the 50s. Like they're all gone. Like all the canneries are pretty much gone everywhere. Well, I was like, dude, I'm going to the Boston Seafood Show. Never been. I'm like, I'm going to try to find a cannery. So I like fly up there. Don't know a soul. I'm there. I mean, dude, a booth, if you want to have a booth there for 3 days, it's literally $30,000.
Crazy.
So, yeah, dude, you're talking like, like Spain has their own booth. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like ridiculous stuff. But I'm there, little old Ty, and I'm like, man, I got to find a cannery. And I'm just kind of walking around, like, with my notebook and just kind of checking it out. Like, wow, this is like the world of seafood. And this guy comes up to me. He's like, dude, you're the trout guy from Instagram. I'm like, I guess. Lo and behold, he works at a cannery in Boston. So I got to meet, it's Island Creek Oysters. I got to meet those guys. So they're doing our first run of canned trout.
Awesome.
So yeah, super stoked on that. Yeah. I think just to have an East Coast freshwater fish in a can.
So Instagram is the connection between you and the faith. It's like as long as you have Instagram to get to the
Dude, exactly.
your voice to the people, it all comes back down.
It's
Dude,
one of the channels.
One of the channels, exactly.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, even with that, I mean, I just felt like, I don't know. We just try to do some educational stuff about what we're doing and whatever. And like, we don't take ourselves too seriously, it's just
Sure.
kind of like, well, I think we started the whole thing just to show like, hey, we're a fish farm, but we got clean water and the fish look great. And, we're just trying to like, because we just initially ran up against so many like, oh God, I don't eat farm raised fish, especially with like, the baby boomer crowd, that's like a whole different thing. But yeah, man, just trying to be transparent about what in the heck we're doing.
Seems like you're doing it right, my friend.
I agree.
I appreciate it.
You are listening to Eat It Virginia with Ty Walker of Smoke In Chimneys. I think I'm going to come up with a slogan. Stop eating salmon, eat trout.
Yeah, that, or I want to do some bumper stickers. Support your local fish farm.
I love it.
This episode of Eat It Virginia. Eat It Virginia? Really? This episode of Eat It Virginia. No! Oh, God, no.
Before social media influencers or the Food Network, there was a national icon who changed the way we cook at home. Julia Child, America's original celebrity chef. Learn how she inspired generations of foodies and home cooks in a limited-time major national exhibition at the Virginia Museum of History and Culture. Julia Child, A Recipe for Life. On display March 16th through September 2nd at the Virginia Museum of History and Culture in Richmond. Learn more and get tickets at virginiahistory.org. virginiahistory.org.